Google is about to change AI-generated content forever. Since the release of generative AI tools like Midjourney and DALL-E 2, the internet has been flooded with AI-generated art. Last year, someone even won a fine arts competition with AI-generated artwork. Today, we're looking at how Google is making sure that's never going to happen again. But first, this is AI Innovations. My name is Blaž, and today we're also taking a look at OpenAI's ChatGPT Enterprise announcement and their new insights into using ChatGPT for teaching. Are we actually close to seeing AI replace teachers in schools? Let's find out. Last week, OpenAI announced in a blog post the release of its ChatGPT Enterprise offering. This is a special offering tailored towards small and large businesses. It offers several benefits over the free and plus users, like unlimited access to GPT-4, the ability to process longer inputs, and up to 2 times faster response generation. It also offers what they call enterprise-grade privacy and security. If you didn't know, OpenAI promises that it doesn't train its models on data acquired from businesses, and that it doesn't sell the data. But of course, that is just a promise. They also mentioned that ChatGPT Enterprise is SOC 2 compliant and all conversations are encrypted with AES 256 and TLS 1.2+. I won't be covering these last two since they're far too technical for this video, but SOC 2 stands for System and Organization Control 2 and is a framework developed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants for auditing and reporting on controls within organizations which offer cloud-based services. The criteria for SOC 2 compliance include security and privacy, so this might just be the reassurance some companies need to trust OpenAI with their data. ChatGPT Enterprise also offers the new admin console for managing team members, domain verification, usage insights, and SSO. SSO stands for Single Sign-On and allows users to access multiple services with the same credentials. So, for example, if you work at a company, you can access some of the internal applications with your Windows login credentials, without having to make a new account for each application. This could also mean you could access ChatGPT with those credentials. The part about managing team members is also important because a report by Stanford shows that 88% of data breaches are caused by human error. Having only trained staff use ChatGPT could prevent sensitive data from being leaked in case of a data breach. The upgraded GPT-4 allows for the use of all of its 32,000 tokens, which is 4 times what is available now, and unlimited access to advanced data analysis, which was formerly called Code Interpreter. That's the version of GPT-4 that has Python built in, allowing for inline code usage, such as file manipulation, analyzing files, generating graphs, and so on. It's really useful for analyzing data in Excel files, where it can generate plots for you and find patterns where you might not have. They're also offering shared chat templates, which would be great for any prompt engineers working at the company. The last thing they offer is free credits for their APIs if you want to make custom solutions at your company. OpenAI also announced that they have more features in the works, like expanding ChatGPT with company data by connecting to applications you use, a ChatGPT business offering for smaller teams, a more powerful version of advanced data analysis and browsing that are optimized for work, so I guess advanced data analysis, and also solutions for specific job roles. I wonder if these will be generally available or made for specific customers. My guess is on the former. They also promised a more detailed roadmap down the line. So, guys, do you work at a company that's interested in using AI? If so, do you think these added privacy and security features are enough to convince your management to start investing in it? Let me know down below. Next up, OpenAI released a guide for teachers about using ChatGPT in the classroom. They include some stories about how it's already being used, suggested prompts, an explanation on how ChatGPT works and its limitations, and they've even included some insight into AI detectors and bias in their FAQ. Let's look at the stories first, because they're really insightful about what you can use ChatGPT for. Dr. Helen Crompton at Old Dominion University encourages her students to use ChatGPT as a stand-in for a particular persona, like a debate partner that points out weaknesses in their arguments, a recruiter who's interviewing them for a job, or a new boss who might deliver feedback in specific ways. Fran Belas at Universidad da Coruña advises teachers to use ChatGPT for crafting quizzes, exams, and lesson plans for classes by sharing the curriculum with ChatGPT and asking for fresh ideas. They also use it to make sure the questions are appropriate for the student's learning level. Dr. Anthony Casiboni at the University of Johannesburg teaches students who mostly don't use English outside of the classroom and encourages them to use ChatGPT for help with translations, to improve their English writing, and to practice conversation. Geeta Venugopal, a high school teacher at the American International School in India, teaches students about using ChatGPT and the internet responsibly. She tells students about ChatGPT's hallucination problem and to be critical of its answers. If you don't know, a hallucination in ChatGPT is when it gives you a factually wrong answer. The problem is also that it sounds very confident in these answers. Next, they gave some example prompts to use. These are really great examples for how you can use some really long prompts in ChatGPT. And for those of you who are new to prompting, I really suggest you go to the article and read them for yourself. It'll really show you how powerful ChatGPT is. They're a bit long for this video, so I won't read them word for word, but I'll still go through them and give you some insights. In the first example, they wrote a prompt that comes up with a lesson plan. It does this by interacting with the teacher, asking about the details like what the topic is, what existing knowledge students might have already, and what the learning goal is for the plan. This is done over several responses, and they remind ChatGPT a few times to not proceed until the teacher responds to the question. After it gets the answers, ChatGPT generates a customized lesson plan with a variety of teaching techniques like checking for understanding, discussion, engaging in-class activity, and an assignment. It also explains why it's choosing each. It then asks the teacher if they want to change anything, if there are misconceptions, and to work with the teacher to change the lesson plan accordingly. Finally, it asks the teacher if they want any extra advice and that they can come back to this prompt with their feedback on how it went. So, see how many instructions are packed within a single prompt? This is a really good example. The next example is a prompt that creates a simple explanation, example, or analogy without sacrificing accuracy. It does this by asking the teacher one question at a time. First, the learning level of the students. Second, what topic you want to explain. Third, how it fits into the curriculum and what the students already know about it. And fourth, what the teacher knows about the students, which may have come up in previous discussions. ChatGPT is then instructed to give the teacher a 2-paragraph explanation of the topic, 2 examples, and an analogy. It's also instructed that it shouldn't assume the student's knowledge of any related concepts. Lastly, it asks the teacher for feedback and if they want to change anything. The third example makes ChatGPT act as a student who has studied the topic. The goal is for ChatGPT to evaluate your explanations as a student. It starts off with a list of instructions for ChatGPT. The one about thinking step by step, for example, has been proven to improve its performance, and you should use it in as many of your prompts as possible if you aren't already. I use this as one of my custom instructions. Also, I think they made a typo at the 2nd and 5th instruction, where it should probably say teacher instead of student. ChatGPT is first instructed to introduce itself as a student, ask the teacher what they would like to explain, and how they would like the student to demonstrate the knowledge. I think this could have been worded a bit more clearly. It asks the teacher what topic they want to explain, but I think it should ask the teacher to actually explain the topic. After the teacher responds, ChatGPT produces a 1-paragraph explanation and 2 applications based on what it learned from the teacher. It then asks the teacher what it got right and what it got wrong, and to provide another explanation on how it can improve. After it gets everything right, it thanks the teacher. Yeah, I think this one could have been done a bit better. I think it might fly over some beginner ChatGPT users' heads. The last example prompt instructs ChatGPT to become an AI tutor. First, it's instructed on how it should behave, in this case it's upbeat and encouraging. It's then instructed to ask students a few questions, one at a time, before starting. It asks about what they want to learn, their knowledge level, and what they already know about the topic. It should then use the information to help students understand by providing explanations, examples, and analogies based on the student's learning level and prior knowledge. It's also instructed to guide them in an open-ended way, so it shouldn't provide immediate answers, but help students generate their own answers by asking leading questions. This is called Socratic teaching and is very effective. It's better for knowledge retention if the student comes up with an answer on his own. Lastly, it's also instructed on some details of how to go about interacting with students. Once a student has shown an appropriate level of understanding, it should ask them to explain the concept in their own words. I'd really like to see schools start implementing this one, although technically this prompt is more for students to generate themselves. Again, I highly encourage you to go read these yourself to get some insight into prompting. And if you're a teacher, you should definitely try using them. Have you used ChatGPT for teaching already? If so, please let me know how in the comments. In our last story of the week, Google DeepMind published a blog post where they announced the release of the beta version of SynthID, a watermarking and identification tool built into Imagen. Imagen is Google's equivalent of DALL-E and Midjourney and is part of their Vertex AI machine learning platform. SynthID embeds a digital watermark into every image generated by Imagen, and it apparently even works for some edited versions of images. If you're wondering about how that might ruin your AI-generated artwork, well, don't worry, because Google has come out and said that the watermark is imperceptible to the human eye. You see, traditional digital watermarks are usually added as a layer on an image. This means that it's easily edited out, or if it's in a corner, cropped out. That makes them insufficient for identifying AI-generated images. There have also been some imperceptible watermarks already developed, which were easily lost with basic editing techniques like resizing. Google promises that the watermark doesn't affect image quality and stays detectable even after modifications like adding filters, color editing, and saving the image into a JPEG, which is known to produce losses. The watermark isn't perfect though. They warn that it's still susceptible to some editing techniques. SynthID can also scan images for this watermark, but it doesn't provide a yes or no answer. It does this through 3 confidence levels based on how likely it is that the image was generated with AI. To simplify, these levels are basically probably generated, maybe generated, or probably not generated. I'll be honest, that doesn't sound too reassuring, but this is just the start. Google will be gathering feedback from users to enhance SynthID's generation and identification. They're also hoping that it could be evolved for use in other generative models like audio, video, and text. Out of these, I'd say it's hardest to imagine how they would implement it into text. They've also said they want to make it available for third parties in the near future. So let's talk about this. I think we should absolutely have the ability to tell if an image or a video is AI generated or not. This is because a lot of fake photographs and propaganda can easily and quickly be generated with AI now. Using this tool could reduce the amount of this propaganda, whereas social network could straight up mark it as AI generated. Think something like Twitter's community notes. On the other hand, if the content passes the watermark test as not being AI generated, it might lead the user into a false sense of security, since they might forget that the content could still be artificial, just not AI generated. There's still Photoshop, you know? There's also a bit of a dilemma when it comes to things like art competitions. Wouldn't you say that being good at prompting for generated images is also a matter of skill? If you've ever used Midjourney, you'll know that it's not the easiest if you have no idea what you're doing. And where do you draw the line between being handmade and artificial? For example, many photographers use Photoshop to edit their photos, and it's widely accepted. AI is just a tool like Photoshop. And don't forget, Photoshop even has features like generative fill now, which is based on AI. I'm really curious where you stand on this, so please tell me in the comments below. Would you ban AI-generated and AI-edited art from competitions? Would you put them in a separate category? Let me know. All in all, I absolutely support watermarking AI-generated images, especially in the early days of AI since we haven't figured out all of its implications yet. I do hope they're able to make the system more robust to make it harder to edit out, but I'm not sure that's possible. But it would absolutely slow down the generation of fake news. Unless, of course, someone makes an AI to edit out digital watermarks. Anyway, this concludes this week's AI News Roundup. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you enjoyed the video. If you want to watch last week's video, click the video on screen now. You can also check out the other video YouTube things you might like, and make sure to follow us on X. Link is in the description. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Blaž, and this is AI Innovations.